Yesterday, 2nd of July, Magnus Carlsen was in Madrid playing some blitz chess in the park, and he sat down opposite Judit Polgar, and she pulled this game out of the bag, an absolute crush, just 19 moves following a really tricky, devastating tactic which she unleashes on move 17. So let's see what happened here. Judit kicked off with e4, Magnus plays a Sicilian, and we actually go down this Taimanov variation here. So we see pawn e6, the queen soon comes to c7 here, knight c6, knight c3 from Judit, pawn a6 here, bishop e3, these kind of English attack lines. We're going to castle the king queenside, get a quick attack going with g4. So queen c7 from Magnus, queen d2, all pretty standard stuff at this point. f3 supports the centre, prepares g4, bishop e7, castles queenside, pawn b5, all been seen many times before, but after g4 here, takes on d4 by Magnus, bishop recaptures, and bishop b7, here Judit plays something unusual. So more often you see moves like king b1 or pawn g5, but she goes e5 immediately. Now this isn't considered to be so good because you give up d5, the knight can hop in, and it's a fairly decent game for black. I mean, say you take, then you've got a really nice bishop here, but Magnus didn't play the obvious knight d5 here. Instead, he took on g4, a tactical line, because if you recapture with the pawn, well, then you lose your rook in the corner here. So you can't do that one, but what you can do, which Judit played, is rook to g1 here. And this is just a great move because you're taking advantage of the fact that black's opened the g file now for your rook, looking down towards that king if it ever castles there. And the real trick in this position is that black can't actually take on f3. There are tactical problems if you do this. Now, to show you the themes here, the follow-up is bishop to g2. And as so ever with chess tactics, it's related to these hanging pieces here. The king's not castled. So if you take this one, for example, well, after queen recaptures, you're hitting knight and unprotected rook in the corner. This is no good. So you can't actually capture the bishop. Say you were to take this rook here, well then after white takes in the corner, again you've got two unprotected minor pieces, both are attacked, this one's not even attacked, so you're going to lose one of those minor pieces, you'll be a piece down, yes you'll have a few pawns, but it's no good. Now there are some other things that black can try in this position here, like knight takes on h2 or queen c6, but just none of it works essentially, the tactics are good for white. So Magnus doesn't take the pawn, he realises that. So he has to drop this knight back. It's a very miserable square, really sidelined now. And Judit doesn't take this pawn. To note why she doesn't do that, well then knight f5, the knight escapes the box, hits the rook, hits the bishop. Now black is suddenly doing well. So here in this position, Judit played bishop to d3. Excellent move, just developing, covers this knight jump. And she's also goading Magnus to take another pawn here, open yet more lines. I mean, you could follow up, say, with something like this. You're still not castled, so it's just way too dangerous to grab that pawn. So Magnus instead focuses on protecting this g7 weakness, but it's very difficult to do. I mean, if you castle the king, you don't even have to take this knight here. You can actually crash through on g7 immediately, lead to a checkmate, which looks something like this. You have to start chucking pieces, essentially, and then you can't stop mate here or here or here. It's just all completely over. So castling in this position here is no good. If you push g6, well, you lose your knight. If you protect with the rook, well, then we take here. So you really can't do anything but king f8 or bishop f8. Bishop back is the best move, which Magnus played, and now Judit carries on with bishop to e4. She wants to trade this powerful bishop here, and best was actually to take this one, and then you don't recapture with the knight, although that might look most sensible. Then knight f5 comes in, you can cover this square, and you bring this bad piece back into the game. But actually pawn takes here is still good for white, all about keeping this knight out of the game once again. But Magnus didn't take on e4, instead he plays a blunder, he goes rook to c8. Looks so natural, but can you see the crushing move here for white, which Judit finds? So in this position, she slams down bishop b6, Just a beautiful tactic, because if you capture that one, we take here, that's actually mate, the queen was overloaded, the king's still not castled, and so Magnus knew the game was lost here. You know, he's saying great move, the crowd's going nuts. I'll link the video at the end. Now what he tries here is just a quick takes on e4, then Judit picked up the queen, the bishop dropped back, it has to cover this square once again, bishop d6, knight f5, knight e4, and here Magnus said, okay, game's gone, well played, they shook hands, game was over. So just a beautiful game. If you want to see another amazing game by Magnus Carlsen, click here. Thanks for watching, see you soon.